everyone hear me? Maybe give me something so I can see if you folks can hear me all right, or see me even. Yeah, okay, cool. I got the good to go. You can hear me fine. Okay, awesome. So, cool. Welcome back to another Earth Live lesson, folks. My name is Madison, and I'm a behaviour ecologist, marine photographer, and science communicator based in South Wales along the Gawr Peninsula. So essentially, I study animal behaviour, but from an evolutionary perspective. Most of my work's been in the area of social behaviours, and mostly with dolphins and otters. But today I'm not going to be talking about my work. So if anyone has any questions about that, feel free to message me on Instagram, or questions at the end, whatever you prefer. Hopefully I can get around to some questions. I've got quite a lot to get through today. So today I'm going to be talking about a place that is really, really close to my heart. It is the Gawr Peninsula. So I'm coming live to you from South Wales, and just to put it into perspective, I'm down here. And I recognise that it was mirrored, so I'm actually looking at this backwards so you folks can see it the right way. So I'm down here in Swansea, and we're going to be focusing on the Gawr Peninsula. So the Gawr Peninsula is a 70 square mile area. It starts here in the Mumbles, and this is exactly where I'm based, just down here, and it stems across 70 square miles. So most of the South Gawr is dominated by beaches, cliff paths, sand dunes, etc. And most of North Gawr is dominated by salt marshes and estuaries. So lots of different habitats going on, lots of different wildlife. The Gawr Peninsula was actually the first place in the UK to be designated as an area of outstanding natural beauty. And that was back in 1956. So celebrating over 60 years of an area of outstanding natural beauty is fantastic. And about 33% of the Gawr Peninsula are SSSIs. So that's a site of special scientific interest. And as you can probably tell by the amazing rock formations here, the designation for lots of the SSSIs were based upon the Gawr's amazing geology and heritage. So before we go in to talk a little bit about this tidal island here, I think you can just about see it. This is called the Worm's Head. It's a tidal island, and it's the most westerly point of the Gawr Peninsula. And I spent a lot of time exploring this little island when I worked as a marine wildlife guide over the last 3 to 4 years with Gawr Coast Adventures, if you want to check them out. So I've spent a lot of time exploring this area. But before I go into that, I wanted just to touch upon the Gawr Peninsula's geology, because it is really, really impressive. And it was a question that I would get a lot whilst I was working as a marine wildlife guide from the passengers, was what rock is the South Gawr? When was it formed? And how was it formed? So I've got a picture here, and this is called the Nave. So this is in an area of Gawr Peninsula called Pilton. It's between Portainen and Rhossili. So Rhossili is the area of the Worm's Head that we're going to focus on in a little bit. And I wanted to show the Nave because you can see the layers of the rocks here really, really clearly. And it's quite a popular area to visit because of this. So South Gawr is limestone rock, and limestone is sedimentary rock. So I'm not a geologist, but this is really, really fascinating for me. Hopefully I can convince you all as well too. So it's a sedimentary rock. It's made up of lots and lots of different materials. So that be clay, minerals, dead animals and plants, organic matter, etc., which millions of years ago would have fallen into a really shallow sea. And over time, they would have become compressed and formed layers of limestone. So this limestone rock was actually formed in the Carboniferous period. So that's around 280 to 300 million years ago. So if you can imagine that these layers of limestone were once actually flat in the water, and when we entered a new geological period, these would have been pushed up on their sides to see these lovely little cliff faces that we see here. I thought that was really, really fascinating, and I wanted to let you all know about that before, because it's a question that I would get all the time, and most of South Gawr is really, really Jurassic, amazing coastline. We do have some rock from the Devonian period as well, which is even earlier than this, but most of South Gawr is, there you go. So this is the Worm's Head. And this is the tidal island where I've spent most of my time exploring. And back here, just out of frame, actually, there's an area called the Causeway. And this essentially is an area that links the Worm's Head to the mainland. So the Worm's Head is about 2.5 miles long, and you can cross over onto the Worm's Head and walk across it as well. So you have 2.5 hours either side of low tide to walk across here, which gives you about a 5-hour window to do that 2.5 mile walk. So it's feasible, but you have to be really, really wary of the tide because you can get cut off. So in the Bristol Channel, we have the second biggest tidal range in the world. It's about 15 meters. The Bay of Fundy in Canada just about beats us with that. They're first. But that's why you have to be really, really cautious on the Worm's Head, because if you get cut off by the tide, you wouldn't want to swim across because it's really, really fast flowing, really strong, and second biggest tidal range in the world. So you have to be really wary of that. So this was actually named by the Vikings millions of years ago, and they said it looked like some sort of worm or a sea monster emerging out of the sea, and that's where it got the Worm's Head. So it's actually spelt with a U instead of an O, so Worm's Head. Apparently they made a really, really quick getaway once they saw this in the sea. As you can probably see here, look, some sort of worm or a sea monster emerging out there. So I've got another video to show you, and this is the most westerly point of the Gow Peninsula. So this is the end of the Worm's Head, and this is something that I'm going to focus on a little bit more so. So we've got lots and lots of seabirds nesting on the end of the Worm's Head here, and I've got a picture to show you. And this is a perfect time to see them because they'll be coming in from sea, spending most of the time at sea, and coming in to lay their eggs. So if you've been watching Scoma Live with Lizzie Daly and Yola Williams, if you haven't, I suggest you catch up on that. It's awesome, awesome series. So the first Guillemots on Scoma Island have actually laid their own eggs, the first Guillemots. So that's probably happening here at the Worm's Head as well. Unfortunately, because of the current circumstances, we can't go out in the boat, we can't have a look. So that's why I wanted to dedicate this particular next section onto some seabirds, and one in particular, which you're going to find out in a second. So some of the seabirds that we have on the end of the Worm's Head that nest here are kittiwakes. Love, love, love kittiwakes, small gull. We've got guillemots and razorbills. So a question that I would always get was, how do we tell the difference between a guillemot and a razorbill? So guillemot are nice chocolate brown and white. They've got this really nice long slender bill, whereas the razorbill here are black and white, and they've got a much broader bill, and they've got this lovely like white Zorro stripe, as I call it. So if you think of Zorro in your head and you see this bird, you're going to know that it's a razorbill. So you can tell the difference there. There's actually a really nice comparison there between a razorbill and a guillemot. So the guillemot have fascinated scientists and ornithologists for many, many years, in particular because of their amazingly unique shaped egg. And I've got my own clay version of an egg here. Just for a disclaimer, it's not to size, it's not to scale. So the guillemot egg actually weighs about 15% of the body weight of the female, so it's huge. And just to put that into a bit of perspective, it's equivalent to a human giving birth to a 23-pound baby. So huge egg comparative to body size. So they are a medium-sized auk. They're the same family as puffins. Everyone loves a puffin, but I love razorbills just as much. Guillemots just as much, and they are really tightly nesting birds. So they nest on really, really precarious ledges, really, really steep ledges, up nice and high away from predators. We get great and lesser blackback gulls here as well. So that's why they choose to nest up really high and on really, really strange cliff edges. And they're exceptional divers, really, really good divers. They can dive up to depths of about 200 meters, and that's the deepest recorded dive of a guillemot. It's fantastic. But they are quite clumsy flyers. If you see them landing on the cliff edges, they're quite clumsy. They've traded off to be really, really good divers. So they use their wings to propel them through the water. Fantastic. You should watch them swim. They're amazing. So one thing that's really, really fascinated scientists are their really, really cool and unique shaped eggs. So if you think of the typical hen's egg, if you eat eggs, in comparison to this egg, and you can see on the screen there, that this egg is really, really piriform shaped. So it's much more coned. It's nice and pointed at the top. And essentially, researchers, ornithologists, they wanted to figure out, well, what's the benefit of having a pointed egg like this? And what advantage does it bring? And essentially, two theories were put forward many years ago, about 150 years ago. one of them just, oh, questions, sorry. yeah, if you've got any questions, yeah, fire them in. Hopefully I can cut in and out or answer them at the end. And one of the theories actually still hangs around today. One of the theories is rolling in an arc. But the first theory that was put forward was that this piriform shape allowed for the egg to spin on its top, like a spinning top. So think of a spinning top. So it would spin just like that on its side. And this was thrown out the window many years ago, about 150 years ago, because the test for that was using an empty egg. So if the egg was empty and it had no chick in it, of course it would spin really, really nice on its side, on its top, like that. So the second one, which is true to some extent, it does happen, but it's not the driving force behind why this egg will be shaped like this, is that the egg will roll in an arc. So essentially, what will happen is the egg is sitting like this on the substrate, on the rock, and it rolls around in an arc. And apparently this was put forward many, many years ago over an overemphasis of egg collectors. So essentially, if you put this egg on its side, it will roll in an arc. But Tim Birkhead and his colleagues, so he's an amazing ornithologist and professor of zoology from Sheffield. He's dedicated most of his life and his research to figuring out this fantastic egg. And they actually measured the width of the arc that the guillemot egg would roll. And in comparison to real life situations, real life scenario of a guillemot egg on the ledge that it may be laying the egg on, which are really often really quite thin and little ledges, it would actually roll too wide. So it would still roll off the side of the cliff anyway. And Tim thinks that this was really overemphasized by years ago when guillemot eggs were collected to be eaten and to be sold as prizes. And later on as well, biologists start to go down and collect the eggs just to try and figure out the shape. So what they would do is they'd go down onto the cliffs and they'd take the eggs, and all the guillemots would scatter and just be really, really scared. And a lot of the eggs would just fall off the side of the cliff. So Tim and his colleagues think that this was really overemphasized by that relationship with the egg collectors, researchers, and the guillemots on the cliff. So what they did is they proposed 3 new hypotheses, and they think that the egg was actually is actually shaped like this for a multitude of reasons. And the first one essentially is strength, just putting it easy speaking, strength, protection, and stability. The first one is to do with strength. And if you look here, I've got a razor bill and a guillemot egg. So this is what it actually looks like. And in comparison to the razor bill. So Tim and his colleagues think that this piriform shape, this really, really nice cone shape, actually allows for more proportion of the egg to be in contact with the substrate. So guillemots are clumsy. They often come flying in, crash landing, winging and elbowing each other. They're really, really close nesting, and they're always on top of each other. So they're really vulnerable. The eggs are really vulnerable to being knocked over by each other, by the wind, etc. So any sort of impact that were to come on top of the egg would be dissipated over the egg because of this contact with the substrate. And the second one is to do with protection. So this area here, this blunt area,